Hi everyone. I'm just giving it a second to click on. Okay, I'm gonna hit it off. Let's go. Welcome to Live with OKclarity.com. Tonight we are going to be discussing the gold standard of couples therapy. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart and my practice. I feel like there is so much tragedy and junk going on in the world, and waiting until your marriage is at its wit's end and in the most survival mode it could possibly be does not need to be one of them. And tonight we are going to talk about what's going on in the couples therapy world that you don't yet know about and need to know about now. We're going to talk, and towards the end, I'm going to start taking questions. If anyone wants to submit, you can feel free to put them in the comments here, and I will respond to them at the end. I am Bassy Schwartz. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I specialize in the emotionally focused therapy approach, and I use that to treat couples and individuals struggling with their own identity or their relationship or the cycle that they're in, conflict in the relationship, post-trauma, coming from just some really intense stuff, trying to connect, trying to stay connected to ourselves, trying to find our own inner peace. Emotionally focused therapy has been the answer for my clients for so much of this. I also incorporate other modalities, but this is really the gold standard for treating anything relational, attachment rooted, post-trauma, really wanting to learn how to experience our emotions and feel the full gamut of emotions. This is where we go. So you can learn more about my work on OKclarity.com, and we are going to dive in. So what is the problem? If you're watching this, you probably already know the problem. The problem is that there is so much going on, and we all have so much going on, and staying connected to ourselves is already a huge endeavor. What am I feeling right now? What do I need right now? Did I eat enough today? Did I drink enough today? What do people need from me? Am I giving everyone what they need from me? Am I communicating well? Am I taking care of my body? Am I taking care of my mind? Am I achieving my goals, right? Like, we could do that in a day. That would be whoa. And then we have people in our life, relationships, partners, kids, parents, siblings, so much going on, work. And it's too much. I'm telling you, it is too much. And in today's day and age, we move so quickly, and a lot of things just kind of get lumped into a day and need to be processed in order for us to have these relationships be successful and meaningful. So we all kind of come in with our needs, and they're not always getting tended to by ourselves or by the people we're with. And I call that the emotional blueprint. What happened to us when we were growing up? What did we experience? What did we need? What did we get? What did we not get? Maybe we had relationships that were meaningful that ended poorly, or we didn't get closure, or we felt really at unease from. And how do that whole system I call the emotional blueprint, how is our emotional blueprint of what happened in our lives before this moment today affecting the way we're showing up today? And EFT, emotionally focused therapy, is the way that we are going to dive into our emotional blueprint and get to know everything that it is filled with and use that information to figure out what we need today to connect. Everyone on the planet has emotions, and everyone on the planet has relationships, and getting the two to synchronize is the work of emotionally focused therapy. Once we get that information and we start to understand how our cycles in our lives, how our dynamics are playing out according to this blueprint, which may have been helpful for us in the past, may have really helped us in our relationships to survive hard things, trauma, or maybe it worked for us in the dynamic that our family of origin had. Maybe that culture worked in our home of origin. Maybe it doesn't work in the real world. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. There's just like some culture or dynamic that was like so acceptable, lack of boundaries, just enmeshment, being in everyone's business, being able to talk back, whatever it may be, might have worked growing up in your specific family of origin, but doesn't really apply very well to the rest of the world. So what are we going to do? We're going to get to know what these things mean to us, what we experienced, what does it mean to us, what are we experiencing now, what are our needs, what are our emotional needs, what are our relational needs. We're going to get to know those, and we're going to use that information to rewire the way that we feel about ourselves, the confidence we have in ourselves, the ability we have to achieve our own needs instead of assuming that someone else is going to achieve them for us, and what our fears are, what our anxieties are, what our desires are from our relationships and our connections. We're going to rewire the way we look at those things and the way we share those things with the people in our lives so that we can use vulnerability, openness, and transparency to get what we want in a respectful way, versus being frustrated and resentful and aggressive or withdrawn or whatever we may do to cope with our needs not getting met and feeling like left out and neglected and rejected in the world. Whatever we do to avoid all of that, we're going to stop doing that, and we're going to find a new way to let everyone know how we're feeling. Doing that could really eradicate a lot of the pain that we feel on a daily basis of misattunement, misconnection, rejection, frustration, feeling neglected. All those things could be eradicated if we just knew how to validate and honor our own experience enough to share it, get heard, and change the whole cycle, change the dynamic. I'm going to give 3 to 6 pieces of practical advice, and this is basically a very short, truncated version of a lot of really deep work. So this is kind of just the tip of the iceberg. But what are we going to do to get to this point where we've eradicated all of our maladaptive coping mechanisms, where we've eradicated the need to act out or neglect ourselves or be the fixer or completely hide in our shell every time something gets a little bit shaky? How are we going to move on from that? So one is that we are going to get to know our emotional blueprint, and we're going to tell ourselves what you did back then to survive, what you needed to do to get your needs met in that situation isn't working for you anymore. Get to know why it worked for you then. Feel whatever feelings needed to be felt then. Obviously, this is much bigger than it sounds right now. Feel whatever feelings you needed to be felt then. Heal them, listen to them, allow them to be okay, validate them, and say, okay, that was painful. I needed to use that coping mechanism back then to survive. I don't need to use that one today because I'm an adult now. I'm autonomous now. I have cognition now. I have a freedom to feel my emotions now. I'm not dependent on other people's validation and approval and care to get my basic needs met. Okay, now what do I need today? So that's 1. 2 is, once we do that, we're going to be exposed to a huge inner world that we may not have known. Tuning into our needs. What do I really want to be doing with my time? What do I really feel about myself? What really interests me? What really makes me feel good? What really fuels me? What really fuels my body? What do I look for in connections? What is my light? What is my fuel? And tuning into that and incorporating that into our lives, that is what we call self-care. Self-care is not massages and manicures and nights out. Like, that's great. Bonus. That's really nice for just like general joy and kicking back in life. But real self-care is, I respect myself enough to recognize that I'm not a machine and I cannot just go, but I need fuel to go, and my fuel is getting my needs met. So obviously taking care of my physical needs, taking care of my emotional needs, taking care of my just like everyday structure of my life, keeping it something that's manageable for me, keeping it something that's enjoyable for me. That is basic self-care. So once we could do that, we fuel ourselves up via taking care of ourselves for real. Like, not saying yes when we mean no, not saying no when we mean yes, not overburdening ourselves to impress people, not working too hard on our image versus our reality. So much of this comes from not being able to be in our inner world, because being in our inner world is so much less enticing than putting out into the world this version of ourselves that we think we need to be loved and accepted, in short. And then the third thing is using this version of ourselves, this more authentic, more centered, more intentional, more goal-oriented, more growth-oriented, more powerful, I should say empowered version of ourselves, then to go connect. I feel okay with what I need. I feel okay with who I am, that it's not scary anymore for me to say to you, I need this from you to be in this relationship successfully. Or when you do that, it really helps me be in this relationship. Or I feel unsafe or uncomfortable when we go into that area, to that territory. Additionally, boundaries, right? I don't think there's anyone right now that I could like pinpoint who doesn't struggle with boundaries. Like, I think it's the curse of this generation that we don't even know what boundaries are, let alone feel comfortable to implement them without feeling like we're being dramatic or intense or aggressive. Boundaries are the door that let people into our lives. If we just opened up our lives to every single person, again, that identity would be lacking, that sense of self would be lacking, our inner world would be screaming, I can't be the right thing for everyone. I can't please everyone. What about me? What about me? It's too draining. So boundaries give us a more structured framework to live our lives within. These are the people that feel good for me to be around. Even with those people, these are the needs I have from them. These are the limits I have with them. Work boundaries, boundaries with children, boundaries with family members, boundaries around time, boundaries around money. All of these things are doors that open up our lives to be the lives we want to live, and kind of just like slide away a lot of that buffer, a lot of that filler, I should say, that keeps us from achieving what we want. If we're so busy doing everything, we're not going to have enough time or energy or intention to do things we actually want to be doing, which again is part of that basic self-care. And then let's bring this into relationships. So the last piece is, how does this affect our relationships? I'm going to go with couples because I think that's the most prevalent. In relationships, especially intimate romantic relationships, we are looking to reattach. Okay, we left our family of origin, we've left our parents, we're adults now, not literally left, but maybe. But really in terms of just like growing up and growing out is what I mean when I say left. We are ready to reattach. That is a healthy thing. Being attached to someone is a healthy thing. Needing someone is a healthy thing. And if we don't have a good blueprint that we're working with to offer to attach to those people, we are going to end up using the wrong avenues to attach. And we're going to hit obstacles and roadblocks and landmines, and anything you could think of is going to happen. There's going to be resentment and neglect and rejection and conflict and avoidance and pain and re-traumatization in certain situations. And that is the last thing we want for your romantic relationship, your partnership. And it's happening all the time that people live with this, and it's normal, and we just go on and on and on in our daily lives. Like, okay, there's seasons when we're connected and we're not. Okay, that's true. There are different seasons. Sometimes we can't have it all. But did we try? Did we try to connect? Did we try to repair? Did we try to look into ourselves and say, what's holding me back here from being close? Did we look into it? How far did we look into it? How far are we willing to really do that cheshbon nefesh, to really look inward and really assess what's going on for us here and come forward with it? Do we feel unsafe to do so? Is that unsafety part of our emotional blueprint that's not serving us anymore? Or is that unsafety due to potential abuse or personality disorder or what? These are questions that we can answer. And those answers are super impactful on the dynamic in the relationship. There are no fatal flaws unless we're not willing to look at them. I'm not saying that every marriage is perfect and should last and there shouldn't be divorce. I'm not even getting into that tonight. It's a completely different topic. But I am saying that if you're not willing to look and you're not willing to try, we can't say, okay, this is not workable. Let's look. Let's investigate. Let's get curious. What's here? And I think that the failure to do that is really keeping so many people stuck in this lonely, isolated, pained cycle that doesn't need to be. And it's very painful. It's really super painful. So with emotionally focused therapy, there's a reason that it's the gold standard on the market. It really breaks down these barriers. It really creates a safe space that doesn't exist outside of therapy, doesn't exist in the home, doesn't exist in the relationship, for the clients to both have an emotional experience of their true selves who am I? What are my needs? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? Who am I? And I feel safe to be me now. And then I can connect to you respectfully, openly, vulnerably. And that is kind of how we rewire and reinvent this pattern that this couple's in. I hope everyone found that to be a little bit helpful. I know it's a lot of information. I probably spoke too fast, but it's beyond impactful for our community, for ourselves. If you're single, if you're looking for a relationship, if you're leaving a relationship, what we don't heal, we repeat. So whatever we're feeling inside that's dysregulated, that's not, calibrated, that's not aligned with our truest selves, is going to come up in our lives. And instead of being like, I keep running into roadblocks, I keep running into obstacles, I can't find what I need, no one's getting my needs met, I'm not getting my needs met, which is a really valid feeling. Instead of ending at that, say, and what might be happening here beneath the surface, right? There's sea level, what's going on below sea level? And that's really where we start in EFT, and it takes us to really amazing places. You can Google it. It is literally the most evidence-based couples therapy model out there. It's extremely successful, and it is life-changing on an individual and communal level in so many ways. So if anyone has any questions, I'll take a few questions. If not, we'll wrap up. Everyone's more than welcome to reach out to me for more discussion on this. I could talk about it all day. I really have just seen how many people it has impacted on the deepest of deepest levels, and how many lives and marriages and families have been revitalized from having a safe place that didn't exist anywhere in either partner or the couple's world or the family's world before. It doesn't look like there are any questions, so I'm going to close out. I hope tonight's conversation gave you some clarity on EFT. If you didn't know about it, now you do. If you knew about it, now you know more. And I really look forward to speaking with you and getting to know you. If you want to reach out to me, Tranquility Counseling New York. I'm located in Cedarhurst. I see clients in Cedarhurst, New York, and virtually, and I would love to continue the conversation. Have a good night.